The latest 3 games of the JAL 24 season occurred on June 25th. There was one game between the Wrecking Crew and the Sasquatches, followed by a Bambinos Lynx doubleheader. Of course, the Bambinos and the Lynx came into the Gameday ranked number 1 and 2 in the league. However, we will begin the highlights with the first game, Crew versus Sasquatches. And in the first inning, Ethan Erickson started at pitcher. Scott Coleman inactive for this game, and Ethan actually did a decent job in the first inning, only gave up 3 total runs. Here was the third, which was a Cameron Morton flyout to AJ Moore in the bottom half. AJ Moore is then going to step up and get a single, but Matt works his way out of the rest of the inning without too much sweat, so it's 3-0 into the second inning. And here is where the Wrecking Crew start to pull away. This is Matt Morton hitting a double, little floater, deep center. Later in the inning, it's 12-0. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Cam Morton going to get a double because AJ Moore can't get there in time to make the catch. Bottom half, AJ Moore making nice contact on a tough pitch again, but Matt able to get the fielding out there, and then he gets out of a bases loaded situation without giving up any damage. In the third inning, Crew have a nice lead now, 15-0, bases loaded, 2 outs, and McKinley Franklin is going to clear those bases with a triple. Later, 19-0, Cameron Morton going to get a double. The game was pretty much over at that point in the third, so we're just skipping to the fifth now, where McKinley Franklin is going to get a couple more triples for himself to just boost those RBIs and the Crew's total win margin in this one. Bottom of the fifth, Matthew Morton gets through it with a couple more nice pitches to close things out, a couple sinkers, and the Wrecking Crew win this one 38-2. Of course, the highlighted stats in this one start with Matt Morton's pitching, but also the Crew as a team hit 21 of 39. Cameron Morton had 8 hits. McKinley Franklin had 6, 3 of which were triples. For the Sasquatches, defensively, both Ethan Erickson and AJ Moore had good games in the field. I mean, what else can you say? They were totally outmatched with Ethan having to pitch this game. But you know what? Ethan, he might win yet another fielding crown for himself. And some of it's thanks to games like these where he just gets to hustle around in the field and rack up a bunch of stats. All right, let's move to the main event of the night for this particular game day. Game 1 of the Bambinos Lynx doubleheader. Colton Titus starting in the circle for the Bambinos, and this is the first pitch of the game. Josh Burkhart hits a double, and it was very symbolic of how the rest of the game would go. Later in the inning, bases loaded, 1 out. Burkhart all over the ball again, drives it deep. Trey Hartley just makes a nice play there in the field. Near the end of the inning, Burkhart puts another ball in play, and this one's a single. Tootle would get 3 runs on the board in the first. We're skipping to the fifth. Tootle leads 8-5, bases loaded, nobody out. Tegan Connors gets a double that puts 10 on the board. Later, it's 11-5, bases loaded, and only 1 out. Colton Titus, as we can see here, he struggled with command more than he has in a long time in this one. Walked in a lot of runs. Tootle leads by 10 in the bottom of the third. Colton able to get a triple that scores 2 there to cut the lead back to 8, but then Tegan was just having a nice game with pitches. Not his greatest game ever, but it was definitely good enough. Here in the bottom of the fifth, we had some controversy where Tegan Connors throws a pitch that he complains would have been a strike if Colton wouldn't have been leaning into the pitch and stopping the ball, he says. I'm in the back there saying if you disagree, redo it. Here's the replay in slow-mo. As you can see, Colton definitely covered the board there with his elbow. I think that ball would have hit. So as they're getting ready to do the repitch, you can see here Colton having some words. What he said was, "You're up by 20 runs, just throw the ball." And of course, the same thing kind of happens there. And the Bambinos are able to get a couple runs in the 5th, but the Lynx still win this thing by a lot. And let's be honest here, this is a very surprising result. Not that the Lynx won the game. I think everybody realizes that they're a very capable team of beating anybody in the league. However, beating the Bambinos this bad, the Bambinos have not lost by this much since JAL 19. Here were the stats. Tegan Connors, like I said, a good game, not a great game. Quite frankly, the Lynx didn't even hit the ball all that well. Colton Titus just had 38 walks, which is very uncharacteristic for him. Just really wild, didn't have command of the ball. And that was the story in terms of the Lynx being able to pull way away in this one. And then, the Bambinos just weren't really able to crawl back into it and win a high-scoring game either because they only got one hit. So, obviously, we know adjustments would be made for Game 2 on the Bambinos side especially. And the number one thing that was changed for Game 2 was that Eric Titus started in the circle to pitch for the Bambinos. Let's get to those highlights. Picking up in the bottom of the 1st after Tegan gave up nothing in the top half. Here's Eric Titus working through the lineup with relative ease. So we're skipping now to the 3rd inning where the score is still 0-0. And here's where Colton Titus starts to get his revenge from the previous game. This double gives the Bambinos a lead, and then later in the inning he gets another double to put them up 5-0. The Bambinos would score 9 in the inning, so this went from looking like it was going to be a pitcher's duel to now Eric having a massive cushion to work with, and he keeps cruising. In the 4th inning, top half, Tegan Connors can't give up much more runs in this game the way Eric is pitching, and he knows it. Runs down that little short hit by Tyler to keep it in front of the single line and get an out. A great hustle play there, and then he gets out of the inning with no runs allowed. However, in the 5th inning, Colton Titus is going to do some more damage, gets a couple more hits to put some more runs on the board, a pair of singles. Bambinos up 12-0. Bottom of the 5th, Eric Titus had a no-hitter shutout going. That's broken up right away, the hit portion at least, by Josh Burkhart, and then Tegan gets a hit as well. Later in the inning, the Lynx would tack on a couple runs, but Eric is able to get out of it with only 2 allowed for the game. A very nice, dominant win for the Bambinos. Pretty much just as dominant as the Lynx win was in Game 1, just 2 completely different type of games, the way that each team was able to pull it off. Obviously, Eric had a really great game pitching, but I really think Colton was the difference in this one. Those 4 hits changed the dynamic of the game. You remember in the 3rd inning, this was a 0-0 pitcher's duel, and then Colton was able to end that with the pair of doubles, got the Bambinos the lead, got them that separation, which helped Eric cruise with confidence pitching without too much pressure the rest of the game. I think it just set them up for the blowout, but definitely it was the Eric and Colton show for the Bambinos win in this one. All right, that completes the highlights for this episode of Game Day's Best. I'm Commissioner Cale Johnson. Thanks for watching.